or the future generation have some water, at least the minimum for health and others. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
في الحقيقة أن المشروعين في تونس مكنوا من تدعيم القدرات وتقييم الوضعيات الموجودة مع تقديم العديد من التوصيات، وأعتقد أن يجب حاليا المرور إلى تكريس هذه التوصيات من خلال وضع آليات لذلك، مع العلم أن في تونس وقع خطوة هامة في اتجاه الشراكة بين القطاع العام والخاص بإصدار القانون هذا الشراكة اللي يمكن أن يغطي العديد من النقائص التشريعية والمؤسساتية.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input. Actually, it's a great continuity from the projects to the initial identification of the gaps and everything. So let us move very briefly to the last two rounds of exchanges with some of our speakers. So in this session, I would like to ask, first of all, Hamza, to give us a little bit your input on how to move from identifying needs and solutions to implementing sustainable investments. And which are the key finance-related challenges for water projects in the region, and what could be how we can enhance the role of international financing institutions. So two aspects of the question. The one is about how to identify needs and solutions for implementing sustainable investments, and the second one, what could be the main challenges that we're facing at the moment and what the role of IFIs could be.
Involvement of a wider stakeholder base, namely the private sector, would definitely be one of the solutions to having more sustainable investments. And the involvement of the private sector should be in areas where they have a comparative advantage vis-a-vis the public sector. This doesn't only address the sustainability issue, but also addresses some governance gaps, such as capacity and resource gaps. In terms of capacity, this can be addressed by the gradual transfer of knowledge from the private sector to the public sector throughout their different engagements. And resource gaps could be addressed by a more efficient use and management of the resources. So to address those and increase private sector participation, the first logical step would be to build the capacity of the public sector to allow them to be able to identify the right areas where private sector participation is possible, and to also be an equal counterpart to the private sector and have a balanced relationship. For example, the EBRD is trying to play a role in building the capacity of the water authority through the establishment of what we call a unit of excellence. And as part of this unit of excellence, we've supported PPP financial training and modeling exercises for the authority to try and build their capacity in that regard. As a follow-up, we are also supporting them in assessing its project master plan to try and identify the projects where viable and bankable PPPs can be found. And the next step would be to assist the authorities in appraising and preparing the necessary studies for those identified projects. The main finance-related challenge, I would say, would be to fund and implement those needed investments, again, without compromising affordability and water provision. As I said, government finances are stretched, and the solution so far has been to blend borrowing with grants, which is not a sustainable solution. involving the private sector in certain areas that have been traditionally dominated by the public sector, such as energy efficiency or performance contracting, is definitely one of the many solutions. In 2014, the EBRD financed the first energy performance contract in Jordan with the help of our colleagues from GIZ, who were heavily involved in the design and of the project and the contracts. And the main takeaways is that the improvements in the efficiency were achieved. The private sector was paid. The public, on the public side, the debt burden was shifted to the private side, and it was a win-win situation for all parties. And we hope that this model can now be replicated nationwide, improving the efficiency of the pumps and improving the public side's financing without adding to the debt burden. On the role of IFIs, I think IFIs can help tackle the issue of the interface between the public side and the private side. IFIs should be seen as impartial players, since they need to see an efficient allocation of risks in the underlying project agreements and contracts. So they're in a unique position to ensure that the government is contributing and honoring its obligations, while the private sector does the same. The presence of IFIs in such arrangements should give all parties the comfort that the agreements reached, in a sense, have the stamp of approval from a third independent party. I just want to conclude by emphasizing that increased private sector involvement has the ability to ensure more efficient incentive-based implementation, and more importantly would allow the government to keep investing in crucial infrastructure even when times are tough.
Thank you so much, Mr. Al-Assad. The next question would be to Mr. Obi Dalal, and maybe quite a tricky one in the sense that it's more a social one, and to focus on gender equity, stakeholder engagement, maybe also a little bit of integrity here, those cross-sector, cross-cutting aspects. Which are the main dimensions from your experience that should be addressed and that can give a way forward to progress in those cross-cutting areas in governance?
Yes, I see that the participatory approach will facilitate actually improvement of decision making, but also more effective implementation, as well as enhance the conflict between different parties. If we look at the same time, the gender representation is considered an important in good governance and integrity for the water sector, not only in increasing the representation of gender in taking decision, but as well in planning and policy making. And this is will lead actually to much better and transparency between the government, the private sector, and the civil society. Also, the participation, you can see in some places where it is like more top-down approaches. And whenever it's top-down approaches, this means is less participatory approach, and there is a need to shift to a bottom-up approach, where all civil society, gender, and even private sector service providers involved in all policies, planning, and decision making. And this will make sure that there will be a vision, an acceptable vision of good governance for the sector in each country, in the country irrespective. We can also see that there is how to say it, that this this need reform, actually. All need reform. And as my colleague said, it's leaving the situation as it is. It will be more expensive than, more costly, more than the reform process itself. However, the reform itself, it's very, very long process and very costly as well. And this need the whole participation of all stakeholders, but also to see not only this participatory approach and involving gender, but as well the technical problem. And from countries to countries, sometimes there is different. What could work for one country maybe will not work for other. As we just explained before, there are different reasons why to do reforms. You could see some that even public are uninformed about any activity, sometimes even many stakeholders. And you can see still in some countries, because of less participation and even the responsibilities between different stakeholders are not clear. And this has been seen in different country in the region. And thanks for the whole initiatives of SIDA, SIWI, and Global Water Partnership. And we need such local, regional, and international approaches to achieve a good governance in the future, to manage the water resources. We do have the scarcity of the water resources we have. And I'm happy to and glad to announce that such initiatives as the WePros consulting firm started from a master program, students in integrated water resources management Arab-German master program, created a consulting firm to transfer and exchange the knowledge through Europe, Germany, and the MENA region. And such initiative, I hope, it's a long process, it will contribute to the whole good governance in the region. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And before getting to you, let us very briefly actually shorten the time of intervention by two last interventions from Carol and Amr regarding the work that you are doing. I mean, it's vast what your respective organizations are doing and implementing. Could you identify one or two potential linkages where there could be use of what is being happening in the governance and financing and water integrity projects in terms of the future for sustainability of results, and linkages that you can identify, even provisional ones?
Look, I'll be very brief because I know there's questions. I just wanted to highlight that AwareNet, which is the Arab Integrated Water Resource Management Network, has about 500 members. Thanks to this project, it created the impetus to set up a working group on water integrity. And it's really through that working group that we linked up and ensured that stakeholders in the region were involved in the programs that you are doing. If anyone would like to know about AwareNet who doesn't know, I have flyers with me if you are interested in then following up on this project, this process, receiving the training tools as well, and transferring and finding ways to have that ripple effect in your own communities. I know that AwareNet is looking to have, with the CAP network, and I'm sure GWP, a set of virtual training activities coming up, and I think this is a way to also ensure that both members, individuals, if they are in government or in civil society, can have those tools and have that, create circles of understanding about water integrity in their own sectors. So if you're interested in being more part of it, with this partnership obviously that exists, please let me know and I can give you, it's a free membership to AwareNet and we can get you information on that. That would be the next step.
Thank you very much, Carol.
Thank you. Yes, there is a need for exchanging experiences and scaling up case studies and tools for implementation of water integrity aspects in projects, programs, and organizations. There is a need for networking and knowledge sharing in a regional platform. So let's recommend from this room to establish a regional network on governance and water integrity. There are a number of initiatives in the region that we are going to implement the governance and integrity aspects. One of them is the MENA, which is about water energy nexus. It's founded by SIDA. It's implemented in Jordan, Tunisia, and Lebanon. Another initiative is the sustainable transboundary water resources management. There is a regional network on knowledge sharing on the water, energy, and food security nexus, where we will also establish and disseminate the aspects of the governance issues and integrity. And believing in the importance of the governance in the environmental sector at large, CEDARI, the Center for Environment and Development for the Arab region and Europe, CEDARI, has established recently the environmental governance program in order to disseminate the concepts of good governance and provide capacity building and awareness programs on governance issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it's now time for questions, if there are any.
Just to make sure we just keep it very, very brief.
Yes.
Tell us who you're targeting from the panelists, who you would like to provide an answer.
How many minutes do we have? We have 10 more minutes? Yeah.
Overall, maximum.
Yes.
ثانك يو. أنا بدي أسأل باللغة العربية. أنا اسمي منتصر أبو عبد الله من شركة مياه العقبة. أنا أعمل مدير دائرة توكيد الجودة والتخطيط الاستراتيجي، ومن ضمن عملي أنا أدير مشروع أو برنامج الووتر انتجريتي في شركة مياه العقبة وهو تعزيز النزاهة. أما ما يتعلق الجفرنس إحنا بصدد التهيئة والتحضير لأن يكون واقعا حسب الأصول، لكننا لم نطبق هذا المفهوم بشكل أصولي حتى الآن. ما يتعلق بتعزيز النزاهة لنا تجربة سابقة، أو يعني أحب أن أتحدث بشكل سريع جدا حتى أسجل عتب في النهاية. إنه نحن الآن نطبق برنامج تعزيز النزاهة، وتطبيق البرنامج جاء متزامنا مع وجود إجراءات عمل موثقة حاكمة وضابطة لكل الأنشطة أو لمعظم أنشطة في شركة مياه العقبة. بال 2015 كان هناك برنامج من خلال إحدى الجهات الداعمة، من خلال أكوا تحديدا وبعض الجهات الممولة. انتهى البرنامج بال 2015. اتخذت الشركة قراراً بأن تستمر بهذا البرنامج حتى تأتي العملية على كل العمليات والأنشطة في شركة مياه العقبة. الشيء المهم اللي بدي أحكيه إنه كل مخرجات الووتر انتجريتي نحن نعكسها على إجراءات العمل، فهي تتعدى كونها عملية توعوية أو تعريفية أو تدريبية إلى أنها تكون واقع ملموس. إحنا الآن بعد ما انتهى البرنامج ب 2015 شركة مياه العقبة إمكاناتها الذاتية مستمرة في تطبيق الووتر انتجريتي حتى تأتي على كل العمليات وكل مخرجات، طبعا من خلال مراحل ومن خلال جروبات ومن خلال فرق عمل. كل مخرجات البرنامج تنعكس عمليا على إجراءات العمل. هذا الكلام بدي أقول اليوم أنا عم بسمع كأنه مدرسة جديدة في الووتر انتجريتي، وما بعرف يعني لمن أوجه العتاب بأننا لم نشرك في هذا البرنامج رغم وجودنا ورغم تحقيقنا للنجاحات ورغم يعني حضورنا في برنامج الووتر انتجريتي. يعني نريد أن نكون يعني يتم إشراكنا ونستمر في تطبيق هذا البرنامج، ولا أدري من هي الجهة المسؤولة عن عدم إشراكنا في هذا البرنامج في المرحلة الجديدة. شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you. Thank you for your experience.
Good afternoon. My name is Mohammed Saeed Al-Hamidi. I'm the CEO of the Water Secretary Council in Palestine. It is rather a comment, not a question. As we've heard that integrity as a cornerstone of governance, and it is based on strong commitment from individuals and institutions. I would say no. It's not a commitment, it's not institutions. Institutions, policymakers may change, but what lasts are the individuals. It's not commitment, it is practice mostly. And unless you build that practice with curricula, with culture, with beliefs, it won't work. Integrity cannot be modules or approaches. It has to be built, and to build it, use the beliefs, the culture, the curricula, and not on institutions' commitments. Thank you.
Thank you. No much questions to the panel.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I have a question for you, Mr. James or Mrs. Are you have a future? In the beginning, let me introduce myself. I am Ahmed Mukhtar. I am manager of Water Integrity Department in the Kahliya Water and Sanitation Company. It's the company in... Okay. I am Ahmed Mukhtar. I am a manager of Water Integrity Department in the Kahliya Water and Sanitation. So I wanted to ask about how the integrity affects the non-revenue water, as you said in your presentation. Are you have any figures or cases for this case or not? How the integrity affects the non-revenue water percent? You said that in your presentation, if you want to reduce the non-revenue water, you can think about the integrity. So, and that's all.
No, non-revenue water is water that is, there are different reasons for non-revenue water. I'm not talking about pipelines that are leaking and that the water disappears, but there are also water that is supplied to people, but where there is no money returning to the institution. Well, this kind of corruption and those kind of things. So that is what we want to address here at this level. And depending on the situation, depending on the country, depending on the region, there are different amount of money that this represents. Of course, this is very much hidden hidden. So it's difficult to get the numbers. But the World Bank did an assessment, and generally corruption represents 30%. That could be said, but it's difficult to say. I think it's the moment to close this session and to thank, first of all, our 7 panelists that contributed to and brought their experience and shared that with you. So please help me in thanking them by a little round of applause for our panelists. Thank you to you for joining this session.
No, nothing further, unless there is something really burning from the side of the panelists. And just to say that we remain, both CWE and GWP-Med remain committed into continuing the line of work, strengthening as needed, and based on your guidance and your instructions and the way that you want to see things moving forward. So thank you once again. To the next time.